Okay, I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Before we start, something non-conventional, but Jackie Smith has something to announce that she would like to have
On
done.
Friday at 7 o'clock, the Medina United Church of Christ is having a classical piano concert. Free will donations will go to the Martha House. So I would like to invite all of you to come.
Thank you.
When is it again, Jackie? This Friday?
7 o'clock this Friday.
At
14th.
Yep, the 14th.
All right, thank you. First item we have is assignment of request for council action. For the Finance Committee, we have 1441, accepting OPBA fact-finding report. 1442, payment over $3,000 for Chippewa roofing. 1443, expenditure over $15,000 from Montrose Ford for the parks. 1444, expenditure over $15,000 Montrose Ford service. 1445, expenditure over $15,000 Montrose Ford water. 1446, expenditure over $15,000 Montrose Ford engineering. 1447, expenditure over $15,000 KR Architects for engineering. 1448, final legislation ODOT US 42 State Route 3. 1449, accepting easements for Forest Meadows drainage improvements. 1450, budget amendments. And 1451, RFQs and RFPs for architect for the court facility design. The first item we have is 1376, a previous item, the JED agreement with Lafayette Township. All of you should have received I guess, the copy of the latest JED agreement, which basically mirrors the JED agreement that we have with Montville Township. I spoke with Linda Bowers at a different meeting regarding the agreement and also regarding some of her concerns. There's current legislation working its way through the Senate. It already passed the House to put a moratorium on JEDs. I guess in some other communities around the state, there are issues where the cities are forcing people to join the JED, specifically government offices. And so now they'll probably put a moratorium on JEDs until they can figure a way to stop that from occurring. And she mentioned when she was at a trustees meeting down at the state of Ohio that we have a JED where nobody's forced to join, and the guy said he couldn't believe that. He didn't know what we were talking about. So I think we have to get this process moving. I think the design, as far as the drawings are concerned, have been completed. So the JED agreement that you have in front of you is the latest one that was negotiated between the township, the city, and the mayor was involved. And Brian Macon's here from Township Trustee, if you have anything to add to that, or the drawings are all completed, you went through the process.
I'd still like to move forward with it.
And I believe that what we have to do, and you may have to do the same thing, is we have to have a public hearing, and then we're gonna have that public hearing, vote on it, so we'll move it as quickly as possible in light of the legislation that's pending at the state of Ohio, because if the moratorium goes on, we can't form the JED. So I think the goal would be, at the conclusion of this meeting, is to have a public hearing set up so that we can do the official reading of the JED agreement and air it out in the public. And then from there, which requires a 30-day notice, bring it back and bring it through council and approve it. If anybody has any questions or objections to that, or I think everything is, and what's included in the JED agreement with Lafayette, if I'm correct, would be the University Tech Center, Chippewa Lake, no, that's not in there.
That's not, the golf course.
The golf course, okay, and the Medina Country Club. Those are the two that'll join, and then, of course, looking in the future to add the, hopefully the Chippewa Lake project, or the former project, or the property that surrounds the lake for future development. Anybody have any questions? I think I guess we can move to approve it so she can go ahead, at least through finance, to set the public hearing, the agreement. And I guess it's, Mr. Huber, have you had an opportunity just to review this yet at all?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any questions or concerns?
No.
Thank you.
Move to approve. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. So Kathy, if you could set up the public hearing, we'll move from there. We'll have the public hearing and bring it to, once the public hearing is complete, taking all the comments that we have, which I assume there probably will be none, it's mirroring Montville, so we went through that once. And then we'll bring it to council for approval. Brian, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll get this thing completed here within the next 60 days, I think it'll probably be that we can get this done, maybe 45. Okay. Next item we have is 1441, which is accepting OPDA fact-finding report. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. I handed out to council right before the meeting. One is a colored comparison, and the other is a line-by-line that Keith and Finance put together for us to show you where we were, what the city's position was, what the city argued for at fact-finding, what the union argued for at fact-finding, and what the fact-finder agreed to. So, the first one, the employee contribution is if they do not take part in the wellness program, and then the lower part is with wellness participation. And they will not be outcomes-based. That was a recommendation of the Wellness Committee that Mr. Shields and I have been meeting with the city representatives. But the union did concede in the contract negotiations, and will put language into the contract that they do concede to outcomes-based in the next collective bargaining agreement. They just thought 3 years was a little bit short, because most larger corporations, the clinic, which is represented at the table as well, is just going to outcomes-based now and have been involved in the wellness for 5 to 6 years. So they thought it was a little bit too much, too quick. But you can see there's been some significant improvements under the fact finder's recommendation, in a number of plan design changes, which we talked about. The colored sheet then shows you, instead of a 26% increase over 2013, that would cut it to 8.9%. Now, I don't remember the number exactly, but I know Dino shared with us before that if nothing else changed, just because of the impact on healthcare companies of the Federal Health Care Act, there would be a 5-6% change in and of itself. So from all perspectives, this looks much more positive for us. The only things that are not correct on those copies that I provided you is Dino and Angela, under emergency room and Urgicare, they added 2 things in the far right column, and those things did not change. They recommended we change them, but that didn't make the cut when we got down to the fact finding. Mr. Delino just did the things aside from those, so those were not included. So they are redoing this form to include that. So it may change that my point is that it may change that 8.9% a little bit as a result. So they just did not have it. They sent the information to United Healthcare, and by 5 p.m. this afternoon, they had not got back to them. And I checked just a few minutes ago and told them I would check my email. That being said, in addition, let me just get to all the different things here. I'll go in the order that we are, just so I don't get off track. So that's the group hospitalization. The next thing was the wages. The fact finder recommended 2, 2, and 2. The sergeants asked for another % rank differential, which would have gave them 3 in the first year instead of 2. They did not grant that. So 2, 2, and 2 across the board. So that's wages. Sorry, there's a couple other things here that I haven't got to here. Oh, the shift. The shift, the employees wanted to actually change everybody to 10-hour shifts versus 8-hour shifts in these 2 bargaining units. The fact finder did not agree to that and did agree to permit the city that for any employee hired after April 1st of this year, we would be able to put them on 5 8-hour shifts. So that gives us some relief from here on out as people retire and we hire new officers on, then they're hired under that 5/8. There was one other thing. Oh, the other was, they asked to increase the maximum amount of sick leave that can be paid out from a maximum of 360 hours to a maximum of 400 hours, and they granted that. So an extra 40 hours of sick time. I think that's the major provisions, unless you all think I'm missing something.
Well, we have a couple of questions, but my first thing is, just so I understand this correctly. In 2013, we paid about $1.8 million in premium for the healthcare for the city, according to you. And in 2014, we were on pace or planned to pay $2.3 million, which is about $500,000 more. And we ended up, by going through this process, to about $2 million. So we went up around about $200,000, close to it, rather than $500,000. So we had a savings of about $300,000 with the new implementation of the participation in the healthcare, the wellness program that helped the city, at least in 1 year, and hopefully on an ongoing basis, would be a cumulative effort of savings in the healthcare area.
I'm not sure which numbers you're looking at.
I'm looking at the bottom one that says family. I mean, I'm looking at, I guess you could look at total premium, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you gotta look at total premium. So it was
Right.
$2 million in 13, it went up to 2.5.
Right.
Right now, it's about 2.2, but understand this does not include the increase in the premium share.
Right.
This only includes the plan design changes. So the,
Still 5% more.
I'm sorry,
Still 5 or 6% more that has to be added onto this number?
well, it's 2%, it's gone from 8% to 10% July 1st. So we'll
Oh,
have
right,
the second
right,
half
right.
of this year and all of next year at 2% more. And then it's going up 2% more in 16. So those are not included in these reductions because what he was looking at is just the plan design changes.
Right. So there'll be additional savings
Yes, sir.
in the
Yes, sir.
year and a half.
Mayor, what did you say though about the emergency room? That is not reflected in these numbers, or?
Yeah, on the far right where it says fact finder recommendation, they did not recommend the emergency room 120% or the 50/40
Okay, so that would stay at the
existing.
existing?
Yes, sir. So it's
And so
$20
that's-
copay versus 50, and then 0 for the emergency room
So
recording.
that's why you said the 8.9% could
Could
go up a
fluctuate a
little
little
bit.
bit, yes, sir.
Okay.
But it's still better than 26,
Yes, sir.
Right.
Much better.
if I remember math correctly.
That part doesn't change. Mayor, can you just explain again to me and maybe the public why we were trying to get the shift change in the hours? Are you allowed to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason we were asking for the 5 8-hour days versus the 4 10-hour days is we have 8 sergeants, 2 of which are already on 8-hour days. So 6 patrol sergeants and about 28, 29 patrol officers. So if you add those up, that's about, for argument's sake, 34, 30, yeah, that could be right. Whatever the number is, for argument's sake, let's say it's 28, 29. That's 28 or 29 shifts a week times 52 shifts a year that we would have filled for no additional money. Every overtime shift we fill, we're filling at 10 hours. For the patrol, it would be filled at 8 hours. So you're saving every shift another 2 hours. What we're doing is avoiding the overlap that we currently have from 9 PM to 3 AM, or, 9 PM to 2 AM, because we're at 4 to 2 now. So in essence, we're saving those dollars and trying to use the existing staffing more efficiently and effectively. In fact, the stat that they used during the discussion phase of that was that, this kind of reflects it maybe a little bit more than how I'm describing it to you, but the shift staffing analysis, which they do to see how many people you need to operate. To staff 8-hour shifts, one shift 24/7 takes 1.72 persons. To do 10-hour shifts, one 10-hour shift, 7 days a week, 24 hours, takes 2.29 persons. So it's almost another half person to be on 10 hours versus 8 hours. That's what we're trying to avoid.
And so the overlap is really in the evening? So-
Yes, sir.
So I guess my philosophy, or what I thought was that going to the 8 hours, we'd have more people out on the road, more presence in the neighborhoods with the 8 hours. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay.
Well, because if you figure whatever that number is,
Mhm.
28 or 29, that's 28 or 29 more shifts, either that you're filling, or you might have a person on vacation and still have an officer there without paying overtime for it. So, it's...
And we use that as an argument, but still didn't.
Correct.
still-
Well, right, and part of the problem with, the fact finder, not that I necessarily agree with it, but it's what they balance, is this was granted to them in a former collective bargaining agreement 2 contracts ago. I didn't think it was a good idea then, Mr. Huber didn't think it was a good idea then to put it in a contract, because once it's in the contract, it's a fight and a hassle to get it back out, because we know that the fact finders and arbitrators are much more reluctant to take things back. So, it is what it is. I think this gives us a light at the end of the tunnel to work our way toward, as opposed to going 3 more years with no movement at all on it. Because we know, looking at our workforce, that we have a number of people that are, you guys want to come in? I don't know who scheduled that. If you guys need my conference room, George, or you can use the rotunda if you want. Excuse me.
Is it open?
My conference room? Yes, sir. Well, no, it's not. You want my key?
Here, you want me to open it?
I don't think you can open it. Oh,
No,
okay.
with your key. Okay. It's right back here.
Sorry about that. Apparently they thought they were downstairs. I should have told Mr. Coin Trump. So, basically that's where we're at.
Now, the collective bargaining agreement or the fact finder's report is being voted upon this evening by the police.
That's what they're going up to my conference room for right
Oh,
now.
that's what they're doing right now?
Yes, sir.
So we should know probably before council what they determine they're going to do.
If they tell us.
We hope they tell us. Okay, anybody else have any questions regarding where we stand on that?
And does everybody understand the process beyond here? What's next? Okay,
If they accept it,
we're done.
we're done. If they
Yes,
don't
sir.
accept it, then
If either side has 7 days to object or to not accept it, that 7 days started Thursday of last week. So if they vote tonight to accept it, we're done. If they vote not to accept it, either side can reject it. Then we
Arbitration.
notify SERB of that. An arbitrator list is generated, and they do the alternate strikes. By the time we pick one, might be a month, 6 weeks. By the time we schedule a meeting, might be another month. And then, just to review, with the arbitrator, it's different than the fact finder. The city presents its last best offer, the union presents its last best offer, and different than the fact finder, they can't take pieces of this and that. It's either this one or it's that one, and whatever it is, it's binding on both sides.
Mayor, if we
And
pass it
we'll share the
tonight, we can
cost.
change our mind and change the offer at the arbitration level.
That's correct, sir.
I will have to abstain from this.
Okay.
Move to approve the fact-finding report
Do we need the emergency clause?
with the emergency clause.
Second with emergency clause.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
1 abstention. Thanks, Mayor, thanks for all your assistance in that.
Yes, sir.
Next one's 1434, airport sublease for flight services of Medina. Mr. Huber.
The City of Medina has a lease agreement with Flight Services. Flight Services runs the airport on the ground. The lease with Flight Services requires the city council to review and approve any sublease that Flight Services would enter into with anybody else. In this case, Earl Olson is asking the council to approve a sublease that would exist as between Earl and the owners of the new hangar that he is building out there close to the road at Route 18, which is the LLC that you're seeing referred to in the sublease. So what the council is being asked to do is look at this, and if there are any objections to language in this sublease, let me know. Otherwise, essentially, you're approving Earl's ability to enter into a contract with the LLC, who will be the owners who occupy a hangar in this new hangar he's building, which will have, I think, 9 hangars. The ordinance that is on for today, as it's currently drafted, has the mayor entering into agreement with the sublease. That's not what we're doing. And I'm gonna have to pull that ordinance and revise the language with Kathy, so that all you're doing is just approving Earl's ability to enter into a lease with the LLC. So I just noticed that this evening, because I had not looked at it last week.
And one of the big portions of this sublease agreement, if I recall, is that at the end of the term of the sublease, the improvements that were constructed upon the property become the city of Medina's.
Correct, that's the issue that we negotiated with Earl.
I do have one question, and that's, are we giving Flight Services of Medina permission, or are we giving Earl Olson permission?
Well,
I know Earl is Flight Services, but there is that difference.
no, we're giving Flight Services permission because our lease is with Flight Services.
Okay, all
And Earl's just representing.
right, right.
And Greg, this is a 35-year sublease, is that correct? I thought I saw a term of 35 years, is that?
It only could be the term of the lease, can be any longer.
No, I don't think it's the term of the.
Oh, of the main, he had 50 and then,
No, he had 35, I think it's 20 left, or 18 left, or something like that.
2035.
okay.
And then if anything happens to Earl or the business and the lease terminates, then the sublease terminates.
Because you can't have one without the other.
Nice job.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1442, payment over $3,000 for Chippewa roofing, public buildings. Keith, or do you want Nino to handle it?
Take that, Keith, if you'd like.
Probably Nino, yeah.
All right, Nino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Over the course of the winter, we had some issues with some of the roofs on the municipal buildings, not City Hall, the engine house, water pouring into City Garage, as well as the water plant, which all went out. Didn't feel like we could get our people out there in a safe manner to remove snow and ice, rather. So they had to do that before they made the repairs with heater torches and so forth. So the repairs need to be done because it's then and now expenditure over $3,000 need to come before you with council.
I just have a quick question. These types of requests, are these really more for emergency purposes? I mean,
Is that a more general question? for me?
yeah, more general, I mean.
Anything less than 3,000, I can just sign off on. The ones over 3,000, give the council. Yeah, it should be for emergencies.
just
Something
wanna
like this,
make
ice and snow, I mean, you know, it's a roof leak.
It was.
Oh, sure, no, I'm not
Yeah.
questioning this particular one, just in
Right.
general, that, you know, I just want to make sure that most of the time when we're doing something like this, it's because we're in a jam or it's an emergency.
Correct.
Right.
And the contractor, I tried to get him to give us billing more frequently, but it doesn't happen that way. He just kind of does it at the end, and it was months. we
He
just
was probably busy with Christmas lights.
He's been busy, busy.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including emergency clause.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We'll just talk about the next four together. They're 43 through 46. Is purchasing a fleet of vehicles, F-250s. And I guess, Nino, you could start since a few of them are yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking for a little bit for Parks, Water, Engineering, and Service, talked about the purchase of these snowplow trucks, preferably 3/4 tons. We did look at the state bid through the cooperative purchasing program, and the awarded bid went to Ross Buick, and they had half-ton pickups, GMCs, and really to hang a plow. We wanted something with plow capabilities. These vehicles before you, this request for every single vehicle has a plow package on them and not necessarily the plow. So with that, we wanted plow capability. The half-ton, it's tough to hang plow on a half-ton. It's just a little too much for the suspension and gearing and so forth in the motor. So with that being said, we talked with Montrose Ford, came up with a great price. Not to belabor things, it's an important item though. The manufacturer's price was $31,217. I gave to Kathy, and I believe she submitted the package. I had the Mr. Powers, who we're dealing with, forward the actual discount, and he speaks to the larger incentive that was deducted on our CUE quote, which falls back to the Community University Education Purchasing Program through the university state bid. We received a larger discount if we so choose to purchase of $9,486 from that $31,000 initial sticker price, which brings us to $23,548.07 for a 3/4 ton, 250, 215 that you see before you.
The question I have is, the current vehicles, what are you gonna do with the current vehicles?
Well, that's a good question. We're actually working with Jansen. I'm not going to take anything out of service immediately. I think the GMC that's in water is pretty rusted, and talking with Adam and a few of the guys, I think that's from being parked on the gravel, because not only, it was never really parked on cement, it was housed in a little outbuilding on stone, and with the lime and the gravel, it kind of was year-round moisture, so it never truly dries out. That one we may consider putting in the auction, we'll evaluate. The other ones will be dispersed amongst service and parks, trying to work something out. We talked a little bit with Bill Davis on some changing of vehicles between service and parks to see where the best utilization of the other vehicles will be.
So you don't have plows because the plows will stay with the old vehicle, or you're gonna have to buy new plows, or just use old plows, but the old trucks won't plow?
That we're gonna assess as well. That's why it's plow capable, so it has the plow package for the hookups. What we'll do is we'll talk with Chuck's Custom. Now, there is a local vendor who did say that they would like to contribute another, basically donate another plow package, or plow and accessories to the city. I'm not sure what department will benefit yet, but that's about a $5,000 endeavor if they come through with that. They did last time. With that being said, they're between $4,000 and $5,000 per vehicle per plow for the plow and accessories. We do have extra plows. Typically, when we auction the vehicle, we send the plow package and the accessories with that, because that's pretty worn out, or it's spent its time with that vehicle. But if we assess it and evaluate and deem that it could stay in the fleet, we'll keep the plow. Of course, the undercarriage will have to be specific to the new truck. They're not always interchangeable, is the honest answer.
I don't know if it, oh, go ahead, Dan.
I just want to make a comment. I thank you and Kathy and whoever else helped you. That's a great price.
It's a phenomenal price, really.
Right, and my only other comment was, I trust you and your staff to only request something when it's needed, so you have my support.
I was just gonna make a comment too on, when I first saw this F-250s 4x4, the administrators were doing 4 of them, but I mean, just like Denny said, that $23,548, I'm hoping that price sticks through the whole process, because I mean, that is a heck of a deal for those trucks.
It is. That's the purchase price that they've quoted. I mean, it's binding at this point.
And did all the departments have a truck purchase in their budgets when we approved them last year?
I don't know if they did, they had carry forward, someone had carry forward that they could use.
If I may, Parks did. It's been a while. Tim was supposed to get together with myself, and that never evolved. That was a year and a half ago, and then Jansen came on board here, so we kind of got together on that one. In service, it's been pushed back, I think, since 2011, so we waited, and not necessarily.
So they haven't been
came up.
budgeted? Okay.
And with respect to engineering, that truck that's going to the inspector is a 02, maybe a 2001, and Pat was out of town. So I submitted it and kind of left it up to Pat, at least made the agenda at his discretion.
It was budgeted starting
2012 when we pushed it out for 2 years.
I appreciate that.
Let's do one at a time. 1443,
Move to approve.
Second?
any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
1444,
Move to approve.
Second?
any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
1445,
Move to approve.
Second?
questions? All in favor?
Aye.
And 1446,
Move to approve.
Second.
all in favor? Next one is 1447, expenditure over 15,000 for KR Architects, public square restrooms. Patrick?
Thanks. City took ownership and title of the property on Key Bank, the old Key Bank Drive through the middle of January, I don't remember the exact dates. We then put together a RFP to hire an architect for the public square restroom and visitor center. We invited 3 architects to submit proposals. KR Architects submitted the least expensive proposal. We felt all 3 architects we invited were very capable of handling the project, so I'd like to recommend them for this work. The question though is the account number. I wasn't sure where this money was coming from, so we left it open.
Can we take it from, either we take it from general administration, or we can't take it from capital, can we just consider part of capital? The design of the building? You know,
From which capital?
301,
From parks? No, from general? Yeah, that'd be fine.
okay. We'll take it from 301 then, because that's part of the project. Is everybody okay with that?
301 is
General purpose capital?
general purpose capital.
Is everybody okay with that? Now, the timeline here, I know that it looks like it's supposed to be initiated today, or we're voting on it today. I think we'll do the emergency clause, I would imagine, so they can get going. We want to try to get it opened up as soon as possible. Oh, this is finance only. Well, we want to get it done as soon as possible, I mean, because the band concerts are going to be starting at the end of May, and I know that's pushing the schedule.
It's not gonna be done by the end of the month.
He don't said easily, he said he haven't done.
No, he didn't.
Completion in May, I don't know about that.
We're
Just so
hopefully hoping for August.
We could push a little harder than that.
Just to be clear, this
Have
is
confidence.
just for the building. It's the building only, that they're the site, so to speak, and I know there's been discussion about parking and drive-through. Jansen just mentioned to me the water fountain.
Yeah, the Uptown Park Commission wanted me to mention they would like to try and incorporate the fountain into this facility as well.
As long as it doesn't delay the project, that's a good idea.
Yeah, we believe we can handle design of that in-house. What it ends up being, I guess, be a lot of discussion. But this contract is just for that building.
Understood. I mean, we have to get the design of what the restrooms are gonna look like before you can build them, so. But we wanna do a good job, but we wanna do it quickly. We don't wanna be
Right.
next spring saying, well, geez, we'll get the restrooms done this year.
We're going to work
Plus,
hard at it.
probably around September, we're gonna have to be
We'll commit to working
lighting
on
it.
Yeah, we're gonna light it up.
Well, it won't be next spring, but it's not gonna be May. I mean, it just, by the time you bid it, by the time you give them a couple, 2.5 months, 3 months to build it, outfit it, everything else, I mean, we have to be realistic too.
No, I know.
So
but
it'll be
it-
next year.
International
No,
Festival.
well,
We're hoping by
This summer.
August. We're hoping by August, yeah.
Write that down.
Write the word hoping.
St. John's open for June or July.
John wants it for Memorial Day.
Get done. Okay.
Move to approve.
Hold on.
Mr. Lane.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Patrick, when we pick these architects, this architect is from
He is,
South Euclid is what it says on his letterhead. Thanks.
No, he's from Sharon, I thought.
his office is in South Euclid, everybody
Yeah.
lives in Sharon.
So we have no latitude in picking the architect because of the bidding?
No, we absolutely have that latitude. We invited him and two local architects.
And the difference between his bid and the other 2 locals is how much?
The one was close, was within $1,000. The other one was much higher, was like 22 or something like that.
About $5,000 more.
Yeah.
So what was the difference when you chose this one then? Did you have to choose it because of the $1,000 difference?
We do not. That's up to council. I guess our recommendation, we felt they were all equally qualified, that's why we invited them. All other things being equal, we recommending the lowest lowest price.
And we worked with them recently, if I may, so I'm over at the courthouse project, which is done. The grinder pump has been installed, it's been completed, inspected, and we worked with him just recently on that project with the health department.
He helped with the study of the pool too, right?
Correct.
He did, he actually led us to the gentleman who was the consultant.
But if the local one is $1,000 difference, I mean, was the work they were gonna do the same?
Yeah, they each got the same RFP.
It just seems that anytime we can go local, that money all comes back into the community, and even if this is, this is a great architect, the one you recommended, they are not local, and so the money that we pay them will not come back into the community, and I've gotten a lot of emails from local architects that seem to, think that they've been cut out of the process, and I don't know if that's true or not, but,
Well, we advertise these and, give most people a chance, but, I wouldn't be willing administratively to support. I mean, we're not talking about, $20 or $50 or $100, but $1,000 of the taxpayers' money just to give it local versus this person who we've also had a good working relationship with. To me, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, I guess the bigger question is, how come the local guys are always higher than anybody else can do it? I mean, that's the other question. I mean, it's the same project. I mean, I don't know the answer to that question, but it's it's a public bidding process, a sealed bid, and I don't understand why they would always be higher, because generally we go through this and they always are, which is kind of odd, but.
Now, Pat, when you say local, that's within the city boundaries for this other?
No, the other way, I believe in their Medina Township,
Okay.
19 there.
That's all I need to know, thanks.
so there was no local architect.
None
No
from the
city
city
of Medina.
proper, no.
Questions? More questions?
We made the motion.
Here we
Yeah, I
second.
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
1448, final legislation, ODOT US 42 State Route 3 paving project. Mr. Patton.
Thank you. This is for 2014 ODOT project with the resurfacing 42 from Lafayette Road up Court Street as far as Drug Mart basically, and Route 3 from the square down Liberty, down Weymouth to the city limits. Per state ODOT policy or state law, we're required to pay 20% of the construction cost. ODOT has determined that it's just a shade under $360,000 based on their estimate. I'm asking for the emergency clause. We get these and they want us to turn it around pretty quickly, within a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, we got this right at just past the deadline for the last council meeting. So what we'd like to do is pass it tonight, send it to council at the next meeting, with the emergency clause, and working with Keith, we'd have to prepare a check here the next day.
Anybody have any questions on that?
How does this come into play with the 42 project? Down along
Yeah, we're not going that far.
Okay.
Originally, they were gonna pave all the way up to Fenn, and then we asked ODOT to reconsider that because it doesn't make sense to pave it and then tear it back up for the widening project a year or so later. So right now, we're stopping just south of Harding. I forget the Goodyear tire,
Okay.
there, that right about there.
My next question, I've been here 10 years, and I know that 42 project got bumped around a little bit, and we're pretty confident, because I know the stretch we're asking them to pass over because the pending project is really in bad shape. And I guess I want to feel more comfortable that this 42 project, not this one, but the widening that we're talking about is pretty concrete, so we're not going to pass
No pun
this.
intended.
No pun.
Well, no.
The asphalt.
Right.
No, in all seriousness, it's under design and it's under property acquisition for the widening.
Mhm.
The money is not there yet for funding the actual paving project, but they're picking the next round of turnpike bonds that if they've spent the money for the design, if they've spent the money for the property acquisition, there'd be no reason not to fund it then. But, you know, I can't predict the future, that provided they sell the turnpike bonds, we should be in good shape to get this.
And the next question, let's say the bonds don't happen, and we pass up this session, when would we think that they would be able to come back and complete that, or would we, because we passed it up, we're gonna have to wait in line for another 5?
That's a fair question, Mark. I would have to ask them. I would assume if it doesn't happen, they would advance this pretty quickly for that stretch of 42. Because,
Okay.
originally it was part of this project.
I just
And
want to
they
make sure.
realize it's bad as well.
Right,
You know?
right, I just want to make sure
I
we don't
understand.
miss out on something.
No, I understand. In the same respect, those are our tax dollars going down to Columbus. I don't want to pave a road and tear it back.
No, I respect that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Move to approve with emergency clause?
Second, including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1449, accepting easements for forest meadow drainage improvements. Mr. Pat.
Thank you. This is a project that council passed at the end of the last meeting. We received 2 of the 4 easements that we're trying to acquire. Storm sewer easements.
Okay. Questions?
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1450, budget amendments. We have 2014-005, 2014 Medina Railroad Improvement Project number 977. Is that you again?
I didn't put this one in, but I believe it's, we
Railroad
approved the
meeting.
project at the last council meeting.
Yeah, this is to cover the project that we approved at the last
Budget.
meeting, so.
All right.
Crossing the state.
Move to approve?
So this is the crossing estate?
No, this is our project to maintain our railroad.
Which we did discuss.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We discussed a couple of those.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The last item on the agenda is 1451, kind of for discussion. It's the RFQs and RFPs, but it says RFQs again, for the architect for the court facility design. And I think the mayor has some drawings or what we talked about. As you know, we were attempted to enter an agreement with Masonic Temple that would build a new court facility located on that parcel. And looking at it additionally and some more, there's a possibility we might be able to build the same court facility on our own property adjacent to City Hall in the rear half of the parking lot, which would be possibly abutting and include the, what would that be, the south wall of the police station in the back, going over 2 to 3 levels. We had some designs we'll show you that the size of the building can fit within the area, and it works out. It could be a blessing in disguise, so to speak, because now we don't have to outlay any money for acquisition of real property and can still accomplish the goals that we as council would like to accomplish as far as the expansion of the current facility without incurring the cost of moving the judge to any different location. And at least the space that's in the current facility can be more user-friendly, let's call it, and maybe enlarged. As we all know, it's about 13,000 square feet, if I recall correctly, over there. And through our tour, it is pretty cramped with all the people that are employed by the court. There's just not enough space for everybody. We also talked about that it would not be a facility that would include a second courtroom. It would only be 1 courtroom. We do not need a second judge. As far as I understand, the council does not want to go in that direction. So the building size would be able to be expanded, we heard that before, to include a second judge, but it would not have a second courtroom at that time. So, but it looks pretty good. Mayor, if you open those, I mean, so everybody understands what we're talking
Will we
about.
construct it to have one in the future?
Yes, I mean,
This proposal, or this idea, to have a second judge in the future with the new facility?
there won't be a courtroom constructed for that, because if we build the courtroom for it, there can be a judge, and we have no control over whether that judge goes in or not.
Turns it over to the Supreme
So there
Court.
will be space available.
Right, or a
It'll be
room.
designed
Yes.
in a way that it could be.
And it ought to be planned for, to add an addition or whatever, that
So
would,
we would add on to the structure, add on to what?
yeah, because I don't believe we can build it now. If we build it now, the judge can go in now.
That's correct. takes it away from council and diverts it to the Supreme Court once the facility is in place. I don't know if that bigger one's easier or this one too.
Oh, now we need
See,
iPad.
Here you go, Mayor.
see the multi-use for these iPads.
High-tech paperweight, there you go.
See how well they work? Very
Yeah, look at that.
expensive paperweight.
This is City Hall, this is the police department. This is the Masonic Temple, this is the walkway to the old theater. What we asked them to do is put, using our parking lot, put two different choices here. One is a 3-story, it's 131 foot by 80 foot. And you can see it fits on about half of the parking lot. There is some advantage with the grade change from the police department in that the design could be constructed to where it didn't come right to the edge of the parking lot, but where there could be a lower entrance as a sally port there. We would have to do some modifications with parking, obviously to accommodate for some of the parking that we're losing, although we think we can handle that between what we have and what we bought from the Moose. So one is 3-story, 131 feet by 80 feet. All these are blocks. And the other is 3-story, 116 feet by 90 feet. So one is square and one's a rectangle, but what it shows us is that the square footage is available. We also talked about if we shifted it a little bit, maybe creating one common foyer, if you will, to once you get inside of the entrance. If you need to go to the court, you go this way and go through the security. If you need to come to City Hall, that the entrances would then veer off. Possibly a nice, courtyard, dress it up a little bit in front there, and go from there. So,
And I think that's the,
You're doing the square feet?
that's 10,400 square foot per floor.
right, so he was figuring close to 30.
I think that's a little high, but I mean, it can
Right.
fit. A 30,000
Right,
square
exactly.
foot building can fit there. So was the latest, that's with 2 judges, that's the size of the building.
Right.
I think they looked at when there's 2 judges, so we know it can fit. And I think the other advantage is, I mean, if it's adjacent to the police station whereby the entryway can come right into the court facility, you have your officers there, if there's any issue, their immediate response, instead of having to go across the street, which is good response, but not immediate. That's a definite advantage. And just having everybody in one facility makes things easier, at least for telling everybody where everything's located, because it's all in one complex.
Right.
And we've talked about trying to get a complex philosophy that's a one-stop shop. Now, the old courthouse, what to do with that, that makes it available for use from another entity or leasing it out or something of that type to provide that. And the big advantage that when we went through the committee is the judge won't have to move, because we were wrestling over the issue during construction. We were wrestling with the idea, well, where's he gonna go? How much will rent be? How much does it cost to move? And we had figures out there, and then I know there's somewhere, I have them somewhere, but Craig, I think they're between 300 and 500,000 depending, with counting the moving and the rent payments and everything included.
Right.
It's somewhere around that number. And so the question is, why would we spend that when we could use that money towards the building or
For
save that
something-
money?
Something we're not getting.
And something we're not gonna get. I mean, it's
Now,
money spent.
another efficiency that could be, if these buildings are all connected, as we've talked about, obviously the heating and cooling on this side, heating and cooling in the police department is challenging as well. This may be a time to try to tie all 3 together and try to get a more efficient, green, effective system that would handle all 3. And then by having one unit, there's much more efficiencies there by pulling them all together.
So hopefully a cost savings on the utility end of it.
You agree? You agree by having all 3
About the
facilities together?
HVAC? Oh, yeah, we have some,
No, I mean that there may be some more efficiencies by having us all with one more efficient unit.
absolutely.
So I guess the question would be, you know, talk to the judge. It's up to council. We have the ability to choose the architect. It's not necessarily the judge's decision. But I would probably assume that we want his input. Not necessarily we have to select him, but that's something to think about prior to the next meeting of what we want to do with respect to that. And also, think about the size of the building that you're going to feel comfortable with. Because we have to give the direction to the architect of the size to build. As long as it includes the functionality that the judge will need to operate his court, it should be fine. And he does understand that we had conversations. So there will have to be some give and take of the size associated with the facility. And so I don't know how everybody feels about the architect. If council's going to hire directly, you know, think about it. The judge already had, I think, Warren and Associates, is that who that was? Does that ring a bell? He had an architect design a few years ago. And, you know, you could go off of that, use a different architect, do whatever we'd like to do to match this facility and make the buildings work together. So, anybody have any questions?
I do have one question with regard to the future expandability. Just because we provide the floor space but nothing else, that doesn't qualify as another courtroom in the eyes of the courts?
Yeah, we're not going to provide the floor
Oh, we're not even gonna provide the floor
space. There's
space.
different things that we haven't looked at yet, and the architect's going to have to tell us. There could be space over top of the southern portion of the police station that could be used for offices. We don't know the structural integrity of the building or anything, but there's different ways the building can be designed to fit and be more efficient in the parking lot. But it would not be space that'll be built out, for example, like this roof that could be used as a courtroom, because once it is, then I think the Supreme Court makes a decision, you get a judge, and then we have to pay for the judge. And that's where the problem is. If you recall, it's between $250,000 and $300,000 more a year to add one judge. And we don't have that kind of money in the budget to do that every year. That was the latest number that came out.
Sir, I think the city, the administration, based on what council wants, should drive the project. We'll obviously need input, you know, from the judge and what's acceptable and so forth, but we don't want to turn the project over to the court. It's a city building, and I think the city should drive it.
And we do understand that the judge will be able to fund portions of the construction of the building based upon his special projects fund. I think he could borrow up to $3 million we talked about as far as his borrowing ability based upon the current payments he receives on a yearly basis. But the question is, well, if that money stops coming in or something, who pays the debt service payment? Those are questions that need to be answered. So he would have about $6.5 million, maybe $7 million at the tops, that he would be able to contribute towards the construction of the building, which I think should build the building, but we don't know that until you bid it out. So those are the questions that are still up in the air. Any other?
John,
comment?
there was prior studies to the existing building, correct?
There were prior studies. The existing building was built, and Keith may know better than I, to add a second floor, but not over the entire building. Only over portions of the building that don't include the current courtroom. But the issue with that we run into, and that's why we're going to be concerned on the design of this building, is that if you do construction above the current facilities, you have people in there. So the question would be, if there's something that happens, there's a safety issue and also a noise issue. So there's two issues that have to be addressed, and I think that's why it might be impossible to hold court and construct at the same time, especially with the safety issue. I mean, if they have cranes there and everything, people walking in and out, and who knows?
I think the judge actually even said one time, if we expand out over there,
It can work.
it'd be workable, but to expand up, he would probably have to relocate during
That's
that
what I was getting
construction.
at.
Well, the only way to expand out would be there have to be additional properties that would be involved, and I believe those individuals currently do not want to sell. I think that
what we gain from this, though, is we gain the building that he's in now.
Correct.
We don't have to pay money to relocate him.
Correct.
We don't have to buy a piece of property.
Correct.
And we improve the efficiencies of the municipal court and city hall and the police
Of all municipal.
by combining all this.
Right.
Yes.
I agree.
You know, if you look at it, I mean, it's,
It's a win-win.
yeah, I mean,
Something we tried to do with the county, and it
right,
didn't work.
right. there's nothing not to love about this. I mean,
Yeah, it should work.
Can't,
Well, let's think about that, so the next meeting we can have an
unless
idea.
we pick it on.
Call the judge to come here, we have to come to a conclusion about what architect to look at. And I don't know, Mayor, if you have any other suggestions about architects or that we've dealt with or you've dealt with that, I know we're gonna put an RFP together.
Yeah, I would say we vet it, through an RFP, RFQ, and then we make a selection, based on either qualifications, past experience, including price, and make a recommendation. My fear is, I don't want to turn over what should be our control of the project.
Sure. And it's gonna be a municipal building in any event.
Yes, sir.
What is the risk of that? I mean, wouldn't it just absolutely be under your control, under the administration's control, even
Well,
though?
it would be unless the council
If we
decides to turn
say,
it
Oh,
over.
if we go to the
we
judge,
did.
say, go ahead,
Right.
get your own architect,
It's
build what you
yours.
wanna build.
But we're not gonna
About
do it
us.
when we get home. Okay.
Mr. Huber's gonna.
We've had pretty good luck with the design-build process, which is a newer methodology of handling bigger building projects. I think we use that on the parking deck, right?
On the parking deck and on the service garage.
Yes.
The benefit of that is if we go a straight construction route where we use an architect, just as an architect, and then we bid a contractor, we always end up with lower quality contractors, because every contractor can bid whoever's lowest and best by law we're stuck with.
Mhm.
We've had some bad experiences as a result of that. We get a better overall caliber of operation if you've got an operation that's doing the whole thing design build, because not everybody can do that.
I agree, and I think that's probably the way would look at it. And also, I mean, the one thing we would have to meet prior to putting the proposal together is just for the programming that the judge would like to see, and we have to agree upon the same programming that's put in the proposal. That's pretty much what we have to agree on. So the next step will probably meet with the judge and come up with that programming. Have him submit what he believes he needs, so we can all review it, and then we could either modify it or do what we like with it. So we know that at least the parameters that he needs to operate his court, or what he believes he needs to operate his court, and then we can put that in a proposal and do a design-build quote and see what people come up with, based upon the location and the creativity that will be available to whoever wants to bid on it. Anything else? Anything else to come before the Finance Committee? I know we have another committee right after this, Public Properties. All right, the Finance Committee is adjourned.